Here is an Einstein's quote. If you can look up, don't remember. I like that. The other one, if you have a will, there's a way. I like that one too. So the first one relate to the second one, because if you look up, don't remember means leave the mind open, calm and quiet. That's what I think it is. If you remember things, it's like a huge inventory you can develop in your brain. Of course, there's certain benefit for certain people to do that, because he is like a dictionary or AI or search engine that can bring out the solution. But that is still ordinary. And what we want to go beyond depends on who we are. But I believe to be creative, to be wise or compassionate, has lots of room to be able to do that. More space in your brain, which end up in connecting to the heart. How about that? Empty-minded. You connect to the source of wisdom and compassion. That to me is what it is. And it sounds like a lazy approach, but there is that seemingly laziness has the intention and leave the room for the solution to come up from down below, not where you can reach out. And more you can reach out, it's like remembering too much. You just stay in that surface, but not go deep inward. Of course, you can make living because you remember things that you can be like a machine and so forth. But these days, AI would take over, and the level of the work, which is easy to find because you just remember, can be done by the computer, or just click on the internet, or ask Siri or whoever. So if you have an intuitive sense that certain area has the solution, then that's enough than to keep organizing, putting things in your mind as much. At certain time, it helps, but not all the time. And if you're really feeling important about doing the important thing, like living the best you can, that comes first, which requires to use those words that you can pick up, but not retain it and then go deeper. I'm not saying I'm justifying what I do. I'm just listening to Einstein and trying to get what he means. He has the willingness. There's a way. That's what he says. If there's a will, there's a way. I didn't know that was what Einstein said or who else, but it just makes sense. And if you have strong willingness, you're not busy with collecting and adding those information in the brain so that you can access. Because the time you spend on that one taken away, then your mind be empty. Empty not in the wrong sense. And there's one more about this laziness somewhere. I don't know if I can find it. I think he says something like, if you're lazy, you just cannot relax yourself and in that situation, or something like that. The actual quote may be different, but the whole point I took it was that laziness cannot go with the empty, quiet time. That sounds paradoxical because you think they may want to, but there's difference between the lazy person to have those moments, but the serious person with the will, there's a way to find that way, requires those quiet time. So again, this corresponds to the word that whatever you can look up, don't remember. Those three different ideas, different quotes by Einstein, point the same thing. I think more than just three. But I just noticed, just flipping this YouTube thing. This is in Japanese, but I translate it into English. And they all seem to point the level of Samadhi with the intention. For example, may all beings be happy. And when you do that, you do it in meditation. Because it's like aligning yourself to the heart for the all beings to be happy, meaning accomplishing their mission, helping each other, not fighting each other, not be arrogant or self-centered, but there's a harmonious blend, interconnectiveness among them, each finding their way, each species and each person and each mini me to the level of each cell. Simplicity, ownership, willingness, not carrying extra weight, not be lazy, but open up to come up with ideas, utilizing the potential. That's what I see. But Einstein says those, and that may mean that not many people practice it. That's why it is shown that something interesting that we may just pass by. But if we pick up, I don't know if I can pick up those things. Like I hate to forget person's name, but I decided at one point that I can not just do it because I'm doing some work and I meet so many people, but remembering name doesn't get my job done, working with the companies to transform. So from that point of view, maybe narrow point of view that is, but I think it applies to his case of invention or coming up with a way how the universe is functioning, because that's what he's interested in. So anything else is secondary or tertiary. So the vision, willingness, empty mind. That's what I talked about too. May all beings be happy, help yourself, help others, heaven helps those who help themselves, and put yourself in the state of Samadhi, calm and quiet mind, no self, to dedicate your life in that direction. It may be just obvious, too obvious, and we want to be more complex and be proud of something instead of ordinary and just be. It sounds like that's what Einstein is talking, but it can be anyone. But the name Einstein may point us to think something elevated, like Nobel Prize or all the fancy equation. But I think he's talking about the way of life. But because of his name, we may have kind of a screen to see him in certain bias, with certain bias. But he may be just talking about the basic way to find what we really like, pursue, and can forget lots of things if we can look it up by computer or anything like that. So let's see what it means to me right now. Well, I see that well, let's leave it like that. No need to look for ways that I may not be doing. I mean, that might help, that I can eliminate if you can find it, but that the effort to find that is maybe not meaningful. And maybe that's the reason why I can't find it, because I may be more focusing or aligned to what I see as important, or that could be a mistake or my excuse. I'll leave it with that. So let the relaxed state come with the answer. In other words, I don't need to seek for it. That's the way it is.